Yo, 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 yo. This is your government cheese broadcast network coming to you with a special pre-holiday uh Phatacular. And it's as always, it's me and the brother Low, me being
What up?
and yeah, so we're gonna check in because this has been a little while. Um yeah, you were just saying a second ago, like how you doing today?
I'm good, man. I've been pretty much the same.
Good, man. Were you able to get some rest in? Because I know you was struggling the other day.
Yeah, fucking finally, man. I was up for about 32 hours and shit.
God damn, I've been there. I
Yeah,
definitely,
all the fucking time. Insomnia is no joke.
yeah. I've been having lately. I've been having a little bit of bouts of the. I guess I could call it narcolepsy. It just hits me real quick, fatigue, and it just knocks me out. Like for example, the fight the other night, I missed half the fights because I was just like, I really need to lay down. I just laid down and I slept. You know, and then I
That's
woke.
hilarious.
I woke back up for the title cards. I was like, it just so happened. I mean, literally, that's why I asked you if you remember. I asked you, go, what time are you at in the fight, right?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, cool. Because I thought I'd slept so far because I didn't even look at the clock. I thought I'd slept so far that I was watching like a YouTube video, like the fight was over or something. I was like, but no, I just happened to get in there right when the title bout started. And I was like, yeah, that's the way it goes.
The doctors didn't say anything about that? About your fatigue?
No, I actually have to go in this coming week. I was supposed to go in Friday, but I was just so burned out from the week that kind of almost last minute I rescheduled it. But I need to go in. I have some paperwork I have to have them fill out too. But I did clear up another thing like that. So it's clearly not heart failure. It's not heart related at all. I got an echocardiogram, first one in my life in my early 40 years. And that was pretty cool because especially when the guy goes, like, they're like, no, you don't got no, you don't only have no problems, your problems don't got problems. I was like, you're saying that my heart's healthy? He goes, yeah, man, there's nothing wrong with it at all. And I was like, righteous, you know. So that's positive. Now
That's what's up. Didn't you take a sleep test?
that's coming up. That's coming up. January, February,
Or
February, something like that.
it probably is apnea, man. I've seen enough people with apnea. That shit sounds like apnea.
Well, I mean, it never was this bad. Like, or maybe it was. Like because obviously apnea doesn't come out of the blue, and so
Well,
because
I mean, when you were here, I was like, man, this fool got sleep apnea.
oh, for real, it was
Yeah,
like
because you would just fall asleep in the middle of a conversation.
oh shit, really? Damn, I
Yeah.
didn't.
Yeah, I get hella patients with sleep apnea. And my brother has it. I have family members that have it. Like that. That's it. It sounds like it anyway.
I didn't know that was a symptom. I'm glad you told me that. I hope that is it, man, because I would love to get that stuff cured. I mean, man, the thing I would love the most is I'd love to be able to wake up and actually feel rested and have energy, which happens occasionally, very occasionally, but doesn't happen with any regularity. But when it does happen, I'm like, man, this is a great day. you know, and I want to get out and do shit. So, but yeah. So let's listen all over their conversation today. So we're worrying about how long you want to talk so we can watch our clocks as it were. Or you open.
I'm open.
Cool. I am too. So let's start with the fight, man. Did you watch both of the title bouts or only the last one, the Ortega Holloway
I
one?
really only watched Ortega Holloway. I mean, I did see a couple of them. I saw the Valentina Shevchenko and man, I can never pronounce that girl's name.
Yeah, I forget her name.
Dejovic, whatever the fuck her name is. That was a dope ass fight.
Nice.
But Shevchenko was just too big for her, man.
Yeah,
Joanna got hurt though.
that's yeah, I saw that at the beginning of that fight where like it was really it was kind of sad because I know coming into the fight, a lot of people they really talked it up like it was going to be about. But then when you saw it go down, you're like, man, she's just too strong. You know, she's just so much bigger and stronger. It's like there wasn't really a fight there. You know.
Yeah, it was just a mismatch. Joanna, give her props though. She hung in there.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm just hoping Homegirl didn't get beaten too badly.
Yeah, there were times in that fight where I was looking at her like laying on her back, and I was like, "Oh fuck!" Like she even looked like she wanted to get out of there.
Exactly. And she needed to, well, at least they didn't end up with an Ortega on her. Because I still think Ortega is fucked up. And I actually have not today checked the because I'd like to see what the doctors say, but my suspicion is that was really messed up. So
Yeah, that was a good call by the doctor, by the way.
big time.
The corner should have done it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, I thought it was bad enough when he broke his nose. You know, it's not uncommon that a boxer gets his nose broke, but there was a point in that fight where I'm like, damn, dude, you don't even got a nose no more. Like it was flat, you know?
Yeah, not only that, but at the all throughout the fourth round, he was getting hit and he wasn't answering back.
Yeah, there was that once he got that one off on him, and then there was this series of like combos, and he just he wasn't defending himself anymore.
Yeah, you just get eating right hands in the face all fucking day.
Yeah.
Well, good fight, good one for Max Holloway. Everybody fucking doubted him this fight, but he showed what's up.
Yeah. And good call out for him at the end too. And we're gonna bring it to Hawaii.
Yeah, bro. That shit gotta go to Hawaii.
Yeah, that was and he could pull it, man. I mean, clearly that was the one thing you can't say that was not a boring fight. Even though Ortega got jacked, it was not a boring fight because Ortega still gave back while he could. But at a certain point, there's too much damage.
Yeah, heart only takes you so far, and it took Ortega up to the fourth round.
Yep. And
the end of the fourth round, they stopped up between rounds.
And I would argue that Ortega had the possibility of having him a couple times prior to that round. Like there was some good shots in there, but then he couldn't continue it. You know, it's just that and then like I was telling you, man, them elbows, dude. Holloway's elbows are just fucking knives, man. The way he does that with when he does like it's like he's going for like a right cross, and then there's that elbow. Bam.
You know? Yeah, he sets it up nice. Because he throws that cross out there so much that he could feint with it, sneak the elbow in there.
Well, I mean that's the crazy shit too, because it's a double weapon, right? He's like, oh, I don't need it. I can hit you with either one. You know, I'm either gonna get you with my fist or you're gonna get the elbow.
And Holloway was playing with him. That fool was like clapping, talking all kinds of shit.
Oh yeah,
during the fight.
When he did that,
clowning.
When he did that like little fake, you think you shook me dance? You know, yeah. I was just like, I was cracking up. He was like, "You think that hurt me?" No, man. And I was like, "Oh shit."
Well, that was funny when he caught him and he did that.
Yeah.
Holloway catches Ortega. I think it was the second round. Ortega wobbled a little bit and Max mocked him. Oh, you okay, bro? You okay, bro?
It was good.
That shit was dope.
It was good to see some good. They were cool with each other too. You know, like, you know, I think there was a couple times he helped him back up, like when they were on the ground at the end of the round.
And yeah, there was a time Ortega tripped while he got up and Max backed off and they shook hands after. That's that
That's respect.
That's just that Hawaiian fucking shit there, man. That's how they do it over there in the islands. There's still honor in street fighting over there.
Yeah, that over here, especially in the hood.
Yeah, Hawaii's fucking crazy. But yeah, that was a dope ass fight. ESPN also had a fight, Lomachenko and Pedraza.
Oh.
Which was another shout out for fucking Lomachenko. That dude's just too fucking good. And he's too good. He reminds me of Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr.'s heyday. where they're so good you don't even really want to watch it because it's boring.
Because no one can match them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just all right. He's gonna beat this dude's ass for 12 rounds.
That means that basically this last month was a notable fight every weekend. Not necessarily all UFC, not necessarily all boxing, but because you had the Lomachenko fight this weekend. How long ago was the Liddell one? Regardless of how the Liddell one turned out,
That was not a big fight. That was a stupid.
I'm not. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying in terms of names, right? They're notable names, but that fight was awful. In fact, it should never have happened.
Yeah,
It should have never been, made it. But it actually brings up a totally different question, which I'm actually curious to get your take on.
Well, hold on, because another thing, as far as the fighting cards this weekend are concerned, HBO had its last fucking boxing event last night. They went. HBO used to be the top dogs, man. They went out with a whimper.
So who has their contract now?
Nobody has their contract. HBO's just done.
Wow. So now it's going to be Showtime.
Well, not only Showtime, ESPN is stepping up. ESPN has been having some good fights. Fucking Ramirez versus Orozco, one of the best fights fucking of the year, happened on ESPN. Top Break has a lot of exclusive fights with ESPN. Golden Boy's having fights with ESPN. DAZN, the streaming company from Europe, they made fucking big moves.
Mm-hmm.
They gave Canelo like a $300 million fucking contract and shit.
Wow.
Yeah, DAZN they're coming for that money.
That's good, man. That just means Europe's making a play for it, which makes perfect sense. I mean, they've been, admittedly, some of the money is hella corrupt, like particularly Russian money. But the fact that they're throwing money into it, I don't really have a problem with the capital of boxing moving,
Well, not just that, but the format, because it's a streaming service.
Mm-hmm.
So $10 a month, watch whatever you want to see. They're also doing MMA over there too. They have everything on there.
And then with ESPN taking up their own, like really getting into broadening their horizons, if you will.
Yeah, ESPN and Fox. This is what surprised me about Fox. Fox is ending their contract with the UFC. They were ending their contract with the UFC to double up on WWE, but they're also getting into the boxing game. They just announced a line of boxing fights that they're going to do pay-per-views.
Mm-hmm.
Fox has never done pay-per-view before.
That's interesting. I didn't know they were doing pay-per-views. Yeah,
one of the biggest ones that's going to be on there coming in February is Mikey Garcia versus Errol Spence. Fox locked that fight down.
That's the fight to be watching. That's the one people have been waiting on right there.
I mean, that's a good debut for your first pay-per-view if you're Fox.
Mm-hmm. We'll see how it goes.
But what were you saying?
Oh, what I was going to ask was, what did setting aside Liddell and who fought? What I find more interesting is I've heard tons from UFC folks about criticizing the fight, the format, blah 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 blah. What I'm actually more interested in is what is your opinion and analysis, and also what's like the word from the boxing side of things of Golden Boy stepping into that, into the UFC game, or I should say the MMA game.
The MMA game. It's just something Oscar's been talking about for a while. A bunch of promoters in boxing have been talking about it for a while. Oscar's just the first one to do something big with it.
So is it, you think
I think he picked the wrong fucking fight though. That is not.
Yeah, that's like a fight that would have been meant something, what, 10 years ago?
Yeah.
12 years ago, 15 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess if you got money to burn, it's a way for him to get relationships.
True.
As far as boxing promoters getting into MMA in general, it's good. It's good for the fighters.
I was just curious to see if, like, you think this is just an experiment, like a real kind of just it's their gamble, or you think that Golden Boy is actually going to make a serious effort and to put, you know, um,
I think this was just an experiment. This was them testing the waters. But later on, I think we'll see more of that type of shit happening.
yeah. What I think is also there's a pool of talent outside of, outside of the fighters themselves. There's a pool of administrative talent that is out there that has been displaced by UFC, because UFC has essentially absorbed or put out of business a whole lot of other, um, you know, like Pride is gone, stuff like that. And as a result, though, there's a pool out there of people that have run MMA stuff that could be brought into a promoter's portfolio to make real good shit happen. And then you just kind of juice it up with some stuff from the boxing world in terms of promotion. But
yeah, all there really needs to do is to be some investment overseas.
Yeah,
there needs to be another Pride. Like more shit needs to come up. It's too centralized right now. Yeah. And as a result, a lot of competition gets lost in the fodder. The fucking fight game is worldwide, bro. How come all we get to see is UFC?
True. And
we get to see a very limited pool of fighters.
And it's the same ones forever.
Yeah.
As I've said, they're kind of long in the tooth,
Yeah, but I think my prediction in the coming years is that as the UFC continues to falter and their viewership declines, that they will be forced to open up.
Well, it's also,
and then we'll get to see we'll get to see other promotions rise. Boxing will come in. Things will be good for the fighters, but this whole exclusive contract bullshit has to go.
It's also cyclical, There's been down periods and up periods. This may be a down period, maybe an up period. We'll see. I'm thinking,
I don't know. When was the last down period?
Well, I look at it in terms of again, like one of the things that's happened really in UFC is it is a lot of the same people, not that many people doing that many fights, and there is young talent developing, but a lot of it is actually in the same, just like boxing. It's all lighter weights, lighter divisions that are really on fire, in my opinion. It isn't the old world where it's all about the heavyweight game, be it boxing or MMA.
I think that's more true for boxing than it has ever been for MMA. I mean, MMA's two biggest stars in the beginning were Chuck Liddell and fucking what's his face? The Huntington Beach kid. The one he just fought. Well, whatever. But it was mainly Liddell.
Ortiz, you mean?
Yeah, Ortiz. Yeah. Chuck Liddell was what, a light heavyweight?
Yeah.
Then after Liddell, it was.
I mean, there were some folks before that, but that just for the.
No, Liddell was the height. Liddell was the height of it. Liddell was the one they backed. That's the one they pushed. That's the one they fucking paraded around to the world. That's the one they brought to Pride.
Well, I look at
show that UFC was serious.
Well, I think that also that was when UFC was shifting away from UFC as UFC to UFC the brand, the sport, right? When it was actually trying to formalize itself. Because I only say that because my memories of UFC go all the way back to was it the 90s? I want to say early 2000s, when it was still like street brawls. Not really, but you know what I mean. But yeah, Liddell wasn't even a name then. Yeah, I got.
Yeah, but that's when UFC sucked and you had to buy the fights on fucking VHS. I'm talking about when they stopped the circus and actually made a big push to legitimize themselves. Liddell was the one that they fucking anchored themselves on.
And
there's only been a few good heavyweights, right? That have been stars.
And then unfortunately, a lot of their stars, which makes sense. I mean, maybe the money's more regular and there's a lessened likelihood of getting fucked up, which is that second life or first life at WWE. And with WWE making a huge push and going even more global, the money's there, you know. But that seems to be that's the UFC retirement program is the WWE.
Yeah, I don't know what's really going on with UFC right now. They definitely, I don't know, but whatever they're doing, it's a failure of the promotion. If we can learn anything from the Wilder versus Fury fight that just happened, is that everything is all in the promotion. A month ago, nobody knew who the fuck Wilder or Fury was. Now everyone's talking about them,
That was a good ass
and
fight.
they're saying it's the best fucking fight of the year.
Yep. Agreed. Well, I
It's
mean,
all in the way you promoted it. Showtime put a lot of good shit behind that.
well, one of the reasons I brought up Golden Boy and moving into UFC is we also have the fact that Dana probably as early as next year is going to do serious move into boxing because he's been wanting to do it for the longest. That's actually was his first love. And so I don't know if it'll be UFC branded or whatever, but I know that he's going to start his own. He really wants to start his own promotion. You know, I actually not just a promoter, but probably he wants to build an entire system. I don't know. You know, but
Now's
there's
the time to do it.
and and then we also have in a totally different sport. We have at the same time, as of I believe yesterday, was Vince McMahon relaunching the XFL.
Yeah, that shit's never going to work. He needs to stop trying to do that.
I thought the XFL was viable, but he needed to do certain what they where it would have been good is if they'd have kind of basically bought up the arena football leagues and then kind of like work that together or even into the Canadian football leagues. But it had a lot of pizzazz at first. It just didn't deliver on the actual games because people sucked. But he did it, ironically, it became the what do they call it? The uh product testing for the future NFL. Says hella shit that they did in the XFL, the NFL later adopted, you know, like helmet cams and shit like that. So,
Yeah, and the mic'd ups and shit.
mm-hmm. And kind of the live the live you're on the field kind of vibe stuff like that. And so I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I haven't actually listened to what McMahon said. I'm curious because I remember when he launched the first one and he put tons of money in that thing. And I think it didn't last. I don't think it lasted 2 years, did it? Maybe 3 at most. Probably less.
I don't even remember.
Yeah, I
I
think.
watched the first season and then that was enough for me.
Yeah, I was a long time ago, man. You must have been because I think that came out when I was in high school. I want to say that. I don't know if that's true, but
I
but
don't know. I don't think it is because it came out when I was in high school.
okay, then it must have been early college for me then. Then okay, yeah, that was a long time ago. A long time ago. But so much for the sports. Unless you had some other stuff you wanted to throw in there, like up and coming stuff that you recommend.
Not really. I mean, there's the big UFC fight on the 29th, like you were talking about, and
That's a good title card.
yeah, the only fight I really care about right now is Mikey Garcia versus Errol Spence. That's not for another 2 months.
And that's just that. I having seen both of them fight, that's the fight I want to see too. I mean, the other stuff, UFC is fine. You know, it is what it is. It's kind of a curio, and it might even be somewhat entertaining. But Mikey Garcia, Earl Spence, that's a toss up, like for real. You can't like I know you have a different opinion probably than I do, but just my own kind of amateurish perspective is that it's it's up to either one. You know, there almost really is no need to have a favorite. but I think it's Spence that is currently the favorite. Isn't that true?
Yeah, yeah. In my view, this fight is a true David and Goliath fight.
Oh, so you have an even more extreme perspective. Do you mean that in terms of just their brand and their name, or do you mean actual ability and shit?
I mean, actual size. Fucking Spence is huge.
Yeah.
Spence is a future middleweight champion fighting at 147 right now. Mikey Garcia is coming up 2 weight classes to fight him. Spence is also, Olympic gold medalist,
True.
undefeated, fucking fast as fuck, good power, good skills. Mikey Garcia, all fundamentals. A true boxer. Like if you wanted to teach somebody how to box, like that's how you fucking box. He also has fucking dynamite in his gloves, just like Spence does. So this one's it's David and Goliath for me.
We'll see if he shows up yoked.
I'm rooting for fucking David.
I know, because I know you love Mikey Garcia, man.
And this is why, well, it's not only that, but it's just that Spence is the most avoided man at 147, right? All the other champions, nobody wants to fight him. Everyone's been avoiding him. Mikey Garcia said, fuck that. I'm going to come up 2 weight divisions and I'm going to fucking beat your ass. If he wins, all it does is encourage other people to do the same.
Well, I mean,
stop waiting your turn and take your shot. Go get that greatness.
Yeah, as far as the story, if we go with the story that's being told, that by far is the best story. When he called that shit out from the ring, having just won a championship.
Yeah.
He's like, oh no, I'm not going to defend this one.
And everybody was like, what the fuck? Are you serious? Even Mikey Garcia's brother and dad who train him, they're like, fuck, we don't want that fight.
But he's like, nah, I want that shit.
Yeah.
I actually thought about it. It is actually, aside from just the notion of it being exciting, the story being exciting, and the possibility being exciting, it is a no-lose situation for Mikey. Because think of this, the exposure. For him, the exposure will be huge.
Yeah. He really has nothing to lose here.
Yeah, because even if he loses, he walks away with a ton of fight fans are going to be like, I got respect for the brother. Like he came with it.
Yeah, everyone loves an underdog story. This is a true underdog story.
Oh man, that's going to be good. I'm already excited. 2019.
Yeah. And not to shit on MMA because I still love MMA, still watch it, obviously. But for everybody that's been saying boxing has been dead, like you haven't been paying attention. You all need to watch that shit. That shit's on the up right now.
Well, like you said, the Wilder fight, perfect example. And that wasn't even, like you said, that nobody knew who was who. But even so, it was exciting to watch.
Yeah, unless you're a hardcore boxing fan, you don't know who the fuck Wilder or Fury. You definitely don't know who Fury is. Motherfucker's been retired for 4 years.
And y'all better know who Wilder is now. Call him Mr. Back from the Dead.
No, Fury.
I'm sorry, you're right. I'm sorry, I said Wilder.
Yeah.
I mean, Back from the Dead twice.
Gypsy King. Working that gypsy magic.
Yeah. For those that maybe didn't watch the fight, the best line, like I said, from the announcers, it's like, it looks like you've been shot.
Yeah, that last right hand, that fool fell down. That fool had a Thor Ragnarok moment. He went to go talk to his dead father for a second.
Yep. And then he just popped back up. And you got that right where you're like, that was like Brad Pitt.
Yeah, snatch.
Yep.
Fuck, that was straight out of snatched.
And he was all happy about it at the end of that fight too. Can't blame him for being happy. But yeah, it was crazy. Crazy fight.
Yeah, Wilder's always a fun one to watch, especially when he's getting beat, because it just adds to the tension. You're like, fuck, is he gonna land that one? Can he land that one?
That was probably, I actually have to say, that was probably the most entertaining fight I've seen this in the last month or so. I'm trying to think of how many weeks. Yeah, probably the most entertained I've been in at least 4 weeks. Might be as much as 6.
Yeah, there's been a bunch of dope fights. But anyways, what else do you have to talk about?
Moving on. Well, there's a lot of other like news items. Like I'm very curious about tomorrow. Let's see if there's going to be some more indictments. That's some crazy shit going in the weekend. But I don't think anyone's going to impeach no president. And then other than that, though, is of course the hugeness of entertainment that is this weekend, and all the stuff that dropped over the last 2 weeks, actually, including Creed 2, right?
Yeah.
What else opened? God, there's actually been a ton of shit that opened this last couple of weeks. There's something that opened right parallel Creed 2. I'm brain farting on it. It wasn't the girl in the spider web, I don't think. It was something else. It'll come to me. Oh, it was the one you hated, the new Harry Potter one.
Oh yeah, that movie sucked.
Is it? Those are based on books too, right? Like books she wrote later or something.
No.
I thought they were based on, because I know she wrote some smaller like short story ones, but so they're coldly created just for the film.
Yes.
That's why they suck.
And they're horrible. The first one was good. I liked the first one. Surprisingly, it was a little too long.
Yeah, it was. It was a little too long.
But the second, well, it was a little too long, and then they fucked it up for me when Johnny Depp, with the reveal of Johnny Depp.
Oh,
It's like, man, Colin Farrell was so perfect, and you just fucking switched him out with this fucking asshole.
yeah, that seemed really gimmicky.
Fucking crazy looking dick. The second one is just a mess of a movie. It plays like movie ideas, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
oh man, there's probably a book with a lot of background information that we don't have.
Let's not talk about books with background information that we don't have. Otherwise, we'll be forced to bring up a certain many-lettered author.
Mm.
And it's
Yeah.
books. But no, I haven't actually seen it yet. I probably because of the negative review you've given it, and no one I've talked to has been excited about it. Not everyone has trashed it, but if no one even mentions it, that's bad too. You know, in my book, it's like no one even mentioned it. That means that there's other stuff that they'd rather you see. You know?
Yeah, and as far as if you're a Potterhead, even the Potterheads hated it because she retconned a lot of the information that we had from the first 7 books. And she also fucking just completely ruined the whole fucking story behind Dumbledore and Grindelwald's fucking relationship.
Hmm.
But yeah, the movie itself on a technical level is very disjointed and uneven, and it's just a fucking mess. And it's bullshit. Fuck that movie.
It's interesting you bring that up too, because I've been contemplating. One of the reasons I like the holiday season is, one, I have a thing for like Christmas movies, but it's because the holiday season, I think a lot of it has to do with the weather. I always seems to be a binge time, like when I watch entire series and stuff. And
Well,
so
yeah, because it's cold and you want to stay inside.
exactly. And so I'm actually been really considering doing the Harry Potter series. And so I was thinking of starting
Reading it?
no. I might do reading too. Actually, I'm reading something else right now, but no, watching the films and actually starting with these 2 prequels. And actually, there's some fan kind of films that aren't too bad either. Like there's one that's Harry Potter: The History of Magic, which is too bad, and then there's another one on shoot, I forget. Shoot, I have to look it up. I don't think it was on House Slytherin or something like that, but it was a couple really good fan films. I'm you know me and fan films. But
Yeah, I've only seen the Severus Snape one.
that's the one it is, the Severus Snape one. I
That
haven't.
one was really good.
Yeah, the history one isn't bad, but yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of doing that because I've never actually done that. I mean, I kind of, to be honest, I actually kind of watched the films as they came out. You know, the only ones that I didn't do as they, well, I didn't watch them as they came out because I only saw the first three, I think, as they came out actually in the theaters. The others I kind of waited for, you know, when they were released. But the two-parter, that one I saw them both at the same time. So
I started with the fourth one. And it was only because I was forced to go, and I only gave in because we had tickets to a special screening.
yeah, that's exactly how I got into it. It's actually our some occasional guest Jabir. His family always has hookup on passes and stuff, and I didn't know nothing about Harry Potter, and he had passes to Harry Potter. So, you know, we'll see. That may actually happen next week as well. We're gonna, not for Harry Potter, but for Bumblebee. There's supposed to be some early showings on Wednesday, I think, all over the nation, not just here, but because
Yeah, that's been more and more common with all these fucking big ass movies.
yeah, and I
It
think
used to be midnight showing. Now it's like a whole fucking day before.
yeah, which is better in my, like, I've been to enough of those where it's cool. The bad thing is when they, you know, they always over give out tickets and then they turn people away, which personally I think is fucked up. You know, at least give them a voucher for something else or afterward, you know. Not just, oh, sorry.
I remember when midnight showings first became a thing with Lord of the Rings. That shit was sick.
Was it Lord of the Rings? God, I'm trying
Yeah.
to, first movie I saw that was a midnight showing. I don't know if it might have been Lord of the, no. It was the Star Warses for me. That's where it was. It was the Star Wars midnight showings. And those were crazy. And we had this giant ass theater that was that everyone would go to.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the prequels.
Yep. That was a trip though too, like
Those ones weren't as exciting for me.
because it's Silicon Valley where I'm talking from, and going to those type of movies in Silicon Valley is its own experience. On one level, it's like going to Comic-Con. On another level, it's like encountering the dick at the comic book store or geek store, or the know-it-all at every single one. And also people that just have no social skills whatsoever because they're in front of a computer screen all day. I say as I sit in front of three computer screens. But it was quite the trip. But we'll see what happens next.
Yeah, I wasn't for those ones, but the fucking Lord of the Rings ones, those ones are always dope.
Yeah, that's on my list too. That's all on my list right now. In fact, I have the Lord of the Rings sitting right in front of me, and then I might do the Hobbits before. But, that or might do the animated ones because the animated ones are really good. You know, that was some of that early, to be honest, early motion capture, even though it wasn't motion capture the way we do it nowadays. But if you look at the way people move, it isn't animated the way people think that, you know, people are used to.
Word.
Yeah, people don't know that. I think a lot of people forget that a lot of the early Disney did it too in some of their early films. If you really watch them, you're like, oh, you filmed this. This was actually, you filmed this scene with the real actor and then you animated over a real actor the movements so they have a smoothness, because you just don't get that in other animation. Other animation, the way they move stuff. I'm talking about back in the day. Animated characters move like animated characters, like cartoons, you know, like living comic books.
Yeah.
In the era of the comic book nowadays. That's the other one. There's been Venom drops, of course, this week on Blu-ray. It's already downloadable for digital, but I'm more curious about the extras myself. And then I believe Once Upon a Deadpool is next week. And then we had Aquaman drop this last weekend. We had a trailer for Avengers drop. And then, I think it was actually might be today or.
Aquaman technically has not come out.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It's only, actually, it has come out, just not here.
Yeah, it came out in China.
Yep. And then, actually in Australia, I think, too. But then you have, I think it's tonight, maybe midnight tonight, or maybe even tomorrow or sometime midweek is supposed to be the drop of the Far From Home trailer. The Spider-Man Far From Home trailer is coming out. And then, of course, Into the Spider-Verse has tons of people talking about it, saying it's the best Spider-Man film, period. And
I can't wait for that one.
And at last check, it was the first film. I think it's probably changed by now because it only takes a matter of time to do it. But it was one of the first films that Rotten Tomatoes ever gave 100% to.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if it's still at 100%, but it was as of a few days ago, or a couple days ago. And I was impressed by that. But yeah, they're, from everything I've read and what people are saying, they're like, this is what they should have been doing from the beginning. It's kind of like, here you get everything right, Sony. Use this model. Don't use this other model that you've been doing. I think it has to getting rid of Avi Arad. That's basically what it is. Get rid of Avi Arad, and then you have a better chance of making a good movie. We say, as we look at Venom, it is the most profitable spider-related film ever of all time.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that Far From Home trailer coming out. Like, it's a little too early.
Yeah, it's kind of.
How the fuck are you gonna have it come out and Avengers 4 isn't finished yet?
Who knows? It could be a prequel. I mean, it could have taken place like before the Avengers film takes place, which I think would be kind of cool. But who knows? As for Aquaman, did you get to finish it yet?
Yeah.
What did you think?
It was good. I liked it.
Yeah, I thought it was a thoroughly enjoyable flick. And that's that's like the best, testament anyone can give, is that it was thoroughly enjoyable. And I liked it. I like the humor, I like the action, I like the effects. And it didn't overly focus on certain things. So
yeah, it was a good fun movie. My only issue with it is for the first half, all the flashback kind of threw me out of it a bit. And also Manta was completely like not needed.
Yeah, that I totally agree with. Like I actually suspect, because what I see when I look at that film, if you step back from it, somewhat, I think that was two films. I get the feeling that there was one script that may have been an extended element that was going to go into a Justice League or something like that. Because remember, Justice League was supposed to be 2 parts originally, right?
Yeah.
But that entire stuff, like you said, like with Black Manta, it's like you could have removed that. You don't even need it at all. In fact, you don't even need.
It didn't even fit. It didn't even feel like it fit.
Yeah, like it, and the weird part was also the sneak attack with the sub. It would have made more sense if you started the movie there. Sorry, spoilers. Like because otherwise you're like, why does this make it? Why is there an attack on a submarine? Why is this origin story taking place? I'm not understanding all this.
I still don't get why that happened.
Yeah, why? That's what I mean. I think that is an editing thing. I think that is supposed to have tied into the attack later on that we see later on in the film, but it doesn't make any sense in the context of the movie, the way they actually play it out, because that thing sinks.
Yeah.
So, go figure.
Yeah. But other than that, it was good.
Yep. Agreed. And then the other thing in that movie, which I mean, this is totally beating a dead horse, is this is the next film where we've seen Willem Dafoe play a hero type character, comic character, and he's barely in the movie. Like he has what, maybe 2-3 scenes and not that many lines, except for maybe in one of the scenes. And but I have to
Well,
say,
most of his scenes were done in flashback.
yeah, but I was going to say that like it just proves how stupid a decision it was to put that mask on Willem Dafoe as Spider-Man. Like here, look at his face. He has all the charisma's right there, and you're gonna hide it behind a fucking mask. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, I feel you. He was dope. They all did really good.
Yeah, that was I actually will put that up there if we're gonna talk DCEU. It's not my number one. I could see certain people making it their number one as kind of like a broad-based adventure movie. In that kind of like in the vein of like The Mummy, right? It's just like a fun movie.
Yeah.
Talk about the Mummy from the 90s, folks. Not Tom Cruise's piece of
Yeah, there's only one mummy.
Yes. But in that regard, I could totally see Aquaman filling in people's number one list. But I actually have to put it at number 2. I have to put it behind Wonder Woman because I think Wonder Woman's still a better film. Because the part where Wonder Woman falters really is a brief scene. Which is that
for me, Wonder Woman was a very good 2/3 of a film.
Well,
I didn't like the third act at all. At all.
Oh, so you didn't like even the stuff with what's her name, the chemical lady, or the general, or with Ares. So you're like a threefer. Fuck all.
Yeah, I did not like any of that shit. I like the first 2 acts.
Agreed.
But I could see Wonder Woman being number 1. I would probably still put Wonder Woman number 1 too.
Yep.
And then Aquaman, and then the rest don't even fucking matter.
Yeah. Yeah, the rest are kind of a mess. And then even though we're getting 2 weird Batman and Joker movies, so I don't know what that's all about.
Yeah, we'll see. But as far as Aquaman goes, there's a lot of potential there. I really want to visit Atlantis more.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to see an Atlantis series and fucking see all that potential Game of Thrones shit that they set up in the movie and didn't pay off.
I also think that if you're gonna like between Wonder Woman and Aquaman, I actually think they've established better leaders for their franchise. I know in the comics and in the films, it's always been the go-to with Superman and Batman, but I'm just tired of Superman and Batman, because fundamentally, what are you going to do with Superman? The guy can do anything, and you either play he's a goody-goody or he's an evil version that is overpowered, right? And then Batman is still the same Batman. There's not many iterations of him that you could really do that you can consider growth. And we've just had so much of him that he's way oversaturated. As oversaturated as Spider-Man is, Batman is 10 times more oversaturated, and that's like my favorite character. But I actually saw that and I went, oh shit, this could be, you actually have 2 franchise and universe leaders that you could run with. In other words, take some of those stories that you would have typically done with a Superman or with a Batman, maybe not the little urban stories of Batman, but with a Superman, and put those with Aquaman instead. Because I think there's enough charisma with the character and conflict within the character in this iteration of him, then it would be compelling. Because functionally he comes across as more human than Superman. Because that's the problem with Superman.
Well, he is more human than Superman.
Well, yeah, but I mean, in terms of how they write it, like even Superman, the way they wrote, I had tons of problems with Man of Steel and MVS and or BVS. I mean, but what I actually have a real problem with is the formula of goody goody that they put on him just doesn't work anymore. It itself comes across as alien. And so it doesn't have a kind of a charm to it anymore. And versus the way, for example, Marvel does Captain America, because Captain America essentially is a lot of the same fundamentally the same elements in terms of character build as also being a goody goody, but it just comes across better because they actually do much more work at humanizing him. So,
Yeah, and it just makes sense because he is a man at a time, so it does come from a previous time. And the drama that surrounds him is just better done. Like he's at conflict with the world and shit.
yeah, exactly. And whereas here, because if you really think about it, why is the Superman story flawed? The Superman story is flawed is very simple. Take out the superpowers, take out the Superman element. What you have is an adoption story. And if you compare an adopted, like, story of someone adopted and growing up as an adopted child to any other film of the same kind of genre, assuming you remove like abuse films, you don't get this type of character. So, like, which is that he should be normal, not hyper normal, and that's a real kind of failure in how they've written it. But
yeah, but I don't know.
moving on, what I really want to talk about in this.
Oh, wait, hold on. Going back to Aquaman for a bit. Because there's one thing that I wish they did, and this isn't really a critique, it's just more of a wish. I wish that in his fucking fighting training that they incorporated the Taiaha.
Good point. Excellent.
Like he's supposed to be both, right? Earth and fucking Atlantis. He's half Mari. Put in some Mari fighting shit.
Totally agree with that. Especially since I've seen, I watched some more like brief videos and stuff he did, appearances he's been doing promoting the film. And man, what we talked about, like him having a more balanced kind of, I don't know if it was balance is the right word, but how you're saying he was appropriating certain stuff. Yeah, he does that a lot more. It's weird. Like it reinforces all the stuff I watch, like this kind of behind the scenes of him, because he actually has been kind of doing travel logs for all this stuff. And if you actually watch behind the scene, what you really see is a dude that's having a blast on, just like this is totally new to his experience,
Yeah.
It's like, this is really cool. So it's kind of like what anyone would do, is just have fun with this exposure and whatever that's going on, which is cool, except he keeps throwing, that stuff in at the oddest times.
Yeah, he really is. It really is performative. It's like a kid in Halloween when he gets his costume on, right? That's how it feels. And he's not fucking Mari, he's Hawaiian. So in real life, fuck that shit. I would be happy if he never did anything Mari ever again. But in the movie, he is Mari. So let's bring out that Taiaha and have a scene with his grandfather showing him how to.
Yeah, that would be dope. That and actually imagine Aquaman doing a haka. that would be crazy. I see him actually like make that part of the character.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
I'd be like, ooh. All the Atlanteans look at him and go, what the fuck? Like, hey, that's how it is. Oceania, bitches. But yeah, what the other thing that made me think of it though, already already they've already basically greenlit part 2, or not part 2 but a sequel. And
Did they?
yeah, it's already been greenlit and they're already in the writing.
Tight.
Because I guess it's gotten so much good response, and because China has already essentially secured it financially, that everything else is gravy, you know. So I suspect it's going to be, outside of Mary Poppins, possibly the biggest film of the holiday season. I could be wrong because Into the Spider-Verse might sneak in there, but it's an animated film and it's Spider-Man, so I think it might get sidelined. Who knows? But I need to see that movie. And then there's Creed. And actually, I wanted to ask you about Creed before we move on topics. Did you see about Stallone?
No, what about Stallone?
That he said that's probably his last depiction of the character.
Of Rocky?
Yeah. Because I was reading about some stuff that basically he's retiring. He's retiring Rocky. He implied that he's retiring Rocky. That was the last time he was playing him. And that and for sure his next film is Rambo. And this is intended to be the last Rambo film. And then I believe Expendables is done. If it isn't done already, my guess is there'll be one more film. I don't expect there'll be more than that, you know, because he has different franchises that he's kind of on about, and I think he's moving into the production side of things, like being a producer, because that was kind of obvious with his new what is it called, his prison escape movie, not Lockup or Tango and Cash, but God, what was it the one he did with Schwarzenegger, the first one?
The prison one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget what it's called, but I know what you're talking about.
I think it's called Escape. I think that is what it's called. I think that is what's called Escape. And so he did a sequel to that already called Escape 2 or Escape from Hell, something like that. And it has a totally different vibe, like in terms of you could see kind of the direction he's going in. It is a much more kind of generic feel, but that's appealing because that means it could be marketed anywhere. It isn't, strictly only the big markets. So
Right on. Well, I don't know. But as far as him not doing Rocky again, I'm completely fine with that.
Word.
Creed 2 was good, but it's not as good as it could have been.
Oh, really? I still haven't seen it yet, so I'm gonna take your word for it. I was just happy to see, like, because I don't know nothing about the movie aside from what's been in trailers, but I was happy to see that I guess Brigitte Nielsen does appear in the movie as still is Drago's wife, right?
Yeah.
Or divorced or whatever.
Well, she's there.
She's there.
But I won't spoil anything. I thought the movie was pretty good. I also thought it was a little campy and melodramatic. I still could have done without the storyline, but for what it was, it was entertaining. The fight scenes were good.
Nice. Did you by any chance get to catch Mowgli?
No, I have zero interest in that movie.
I thought that was the one you wanted to see. You're interested in seeing Mowgli.
It was until I heard a bunch of bullshit about it, so I just
Well,
the excitement died.
What did you hear? Aside from what I said.
I don't know, just that it wasn't good.
I think it wasn't. I actually on a like I said, I'm on a sequel kick, so I actually watched all three Jungle Book films, not the animated ones, but I watched the one from the '90s that had Jason Scott Lee. I watched that one. I watched Mowgli, and I watched Jungle Book from 2 years ago, and I realized that this Jungle Book I actually like the kid more, the new one, and Mowgli I like the kid actor a lot more. He just has a charm to him versus the other one from 2016. So it's like almost if you could combine the two, you'd have a much better movie. But also, this film is interesting because it's actually really old. I guess they started filming it in 2014. So it's 4 years that shit's been sitting on a shelf essentially because they wanted to put distance between it and the Disney film.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But as far as CGI goes, that was the issue I really had with it most of all. It is, and actually, there is a reason to see it. By the way, it's the first film directed by Andy Serkis, like Gollum himself.
Well, I didn't say I'm not going to watch it. I'm just really not interested in watching it right now.
I think the yawn explained it all.
What's that?
Your yawn kind of enforced that pretty well. You're like, yeah, I'm tired of this topic. Move on. Like, okay. But no, what I was gonna say was the topic I really want to talk about today was when I heard the news about them already doing kind of the Aquaman, greenlighting a sequel and starting on a script and stuff like that. And I was looking at all just the merchandising, and it made me think, because I need to add something else into this, is the recent Coen Brothers film, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, which is on Netflix, and I highly recommend it. It's a quality Coen Brothers movie. It's if you like Coen Brothers, but
The Coen sisters?
the Coen sisters, no, the Coen Brothers, and that film. I was watching a thing where they were talking about the making of that film and why they made it, and supposedly it had been a project they've been working on for like 10 years, the script. And they just felt that they couldn't get it made in Hollywood anymore. That Hollywood doesn't make those kind of movies. It only makes superhero movies, essentially. And so Netflix was really the place to go with it, even though they weren't comfortable with the idea of it only getting a streaming services release. But they were very practical about it, going, well, this is the future. Even though they think it does a disservice to not see it on a screen, apparently. But having said that, what I was thinking about was, so is the franchise carrying the merchandising and the direction of, like, because these are all intellectual property acquired from something else. So for example, not to stick only with comics, but for example, are the Marvel films now making everything else beholden to them, to it, or vice versa? Are the films themselves, if we look at the films as the most expensive manifestation of these products, are those just massive commercials? And we've heard that in terms of like just criticisms, but I mean, literally, is that what they are now? Like, is that the bottom line? So like, is Disney looking at the film going, we're not making films to make films. We're making films to sell merchandise. And so their quality control and stories and stuff is driven by that versus actually having good stories, even though the two are connected. But it brought me back to kind of the early rise of intellectual property in the 80s, where basically all of my childhood memories are actually flooded with merchandising. There wouldn't have been a Transformers cartoon or GI Joe cartoon. any kind of comic book without the toys already pre-existing. What are your thoughts?
Wait, what do you mean? Say that again.
Okay, so back in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Because here's the difference. Okay, merchandising had already always existed in terms of connection with like movies and TV. You know, you could get a Howdy Doody doll back in the day, but the difference was back then, for sure, the art form dictated the toys, and so Star Wars being probably the most prime example. The merchandise followed the making of the film, but the original idea was a film. The film was just exciting enough to create merchandising. You know, like it actually, that was the formula. By the 80s, the formula had inverted, and instead what you had were mass marketing to feed toys. The toys pre-existed the actual content of the media content. So like Transformers, the cartoon, G.I. Joe, the cartoon, the comic books,
Ninja Turtles.
Well, Ninja Turtles is actually the one that's the reverse, because the comic pre-existed the cartoons.
Yeah, but the cartoon was made for the toys.
Yes, that's true.
The toy company.
Yeah, exactly.
Pushed them to do that
with the colors and everything else. Yeah, and so is that what we're experiencing now? Is that really what that is New Hollywood? New Hollywood has succumbed to one. We already know it's pretty low on original stories, because there's a sure bet now of kind of grabbing a comic book, a pre-existing IP, and then just making it into a film. But now the biggest films, period, all are connected to massive merchandising monopolies and intellectual property. And my question is the film driving the merchandise, or is the merchandise driving the film or television series? It doesn't necessarily have to be a film, you know?
Yeah, I think it's both.
So the two are coexisting.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're looking at Terminators, because Hasbro, that's a Hasbro fucking film company production.
Terminator, you mean, or Transformers?
I mean, Transformers.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean,
And then Mattel is starting their own production company soon.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
That's where I think most of the bullshit comes from. It's the production companies.
What are some of Mattel's like copyrighted material? Copyright isn't the right word.
I have no idea, but they have a lot of it.
I'm sure. Well, I know that.
See, I don't know. I'm pretty sure it goes both ways, right? You got to secure financing from some places. Toy divisions will do it if you give them their rights. It's a give and take relationship, I think.
Well, I know that Hasbro, I actually did a lot of research on them, and they have a swath of untapped intellectual property, like that people have not seen, because they own all of Dungeons and Dragons. Every single like thing related to that. They own Magic the Gathering. You know, all of the kind of background content material developed for that as well, and several other kind of game worlds and the worlds connected to games. We're just seeing the very surface stuff that they're kind of known for. You know, Transformers, My Little Pony, whatever. You know, but they actually own that shit too. And I'm like looking at that going, damn, that, you know, once fantasy, like that's the only real untapped fantasy material that is there that can be mined forever, you know, because unfortunately the Tolkien world is finite, as is George R. R. Martin's world, or at least we thought it was.
Yeah, there's so much shit going on with that.
not to sideline that, but actually, did you catch the sneak on that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, they're all right, but it is too long out.
The sneak gave nothing. It was bullshit.
Yeah. So the other part of this is like, how is this changing film? Because the other part of it is we already know that the content itself is changing based on marketing in terms of the like we're talking about the internationalization of the films, so it can appeal to a Chinese market, for example. Because
Right.
that's like that's the big one with Marvel. They're talking about they're doing Shang-Chi was announced.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly, Shang-Chi was not announced as a TV series, is now as a film. And so that's a blatant, call.
Well, they've always made concessions for China. Did you know that the whole reason why they cast that white girl in Doctor Strange was for China?
You mean for the one that plays the shoot ancient one? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, the ancient one.
Yeah. Really? That
Yeah.
sounds bizarre. How did that work out?
They just didn't want to risk offending China with a stereotypical character, so they decided to change it.
That's interesting. So that's an interesting, like a juxtaposed kind of scenario there, like contradiction. Our SJWs here, rabidly objected to it, and then sorry about that. They rabidly objected to it. At the same time, they don't want to offend China, but they offend Americans.
Yeah,
Probably
they're
weren't even Asian. That's funny.
yeah.
When
Yeah,
did
you just can't win sometimes. Fucking Marvel, come on.
and they did it again with Danny Rand. But that's funny. But that's a whole other mess too, because they could also make the mistake of like, how dare you cast a Japanese actor to play a Chinese character? Or something to that effect.
Yeah, as far as the toy industry goes and how it affects content, I really think that it's just obviously they're going to affect content, right? But I don't think it's a huge problem
Mm-hmm.
because it's only affecting this one area, right? It's not like I don't think it's a industry wide thing.
Well, I mean, what we're seeing now is that the only place, like the big studios in their current form, clearly is not the location for really imaginative, new, creative, and innovative film, or ideas. Television has been much more so, but now we're actually seeing a streaming services too. A good example is the film that you just brought up, which I'm hoping to check out after we get off air, uh, which is Bodied, right?
Right.
That being an original film, and then YouTube actually is abandoning the YouTube Red model. Did you hear about that?
Mm-hmm.
And so that means that that's really the only place for original films to be and get shopped around. You know,
Well, on the streaming services.
yeah. And that's a whole other mathematics too. Like I was actually thinking about that last night. You know, I have a mother that just happened to recently discover Netflix. This is after she had discovered YouTube. And so now she is, for the first time ever, encountering what it is to binge. So it's been funny talking to her, because every time I talk to her, it's like, no, I'm watching a show. And so she's binging her way through the dramatic version of English history. So watching like The Tudors and Victoria and all these like uh
Yeah, White Queen and all that shit.
yeah, White Queen, White Princess. And but I was just thinking like I'm like those are shows, that's one thing. Films are another thing entirely, and it really is just a gamble because there isn't, or maybe it isn't, maybe there is so much pre-existing metric data that you actually minimize your loss on films. That's what I'm thinking. Because if you you have a guaranteed audience in your mathematical model in terms of the money you have coming in, balances out, and you still making money, then it doesn't seem like a big gamble. But on the other hand, I'm just thinking in my brain, I'm going, that's a whole lot of cash tied up in a maybe this will be watched. Because this is really obscure shit that I'm positive there can't be that many people watching. But then
Well, this is why I say that I think we need to be looking at the production companies more than the studios and what they're doing, because the production companies are the ones footing all the costs now. Perfect example is The Expanse, right? Expanse, the production company, is the one that footed the cost. It wasn't Sci-Fi's. That's why they were able to shop shit around, and that's why they were able to chop the rights up like that.
Because and correct me if I'm wrong, Expanse is coming back on Amazon, is it?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, so it's all in the money right now. I don't think studios have any real control other than the content that they buy.
That's true. Because I mean, I guess it is all investment capital, it's a business. That's the way to look at these films or shows. They're temporary businesses that you hope to make your money out of, in the short term. Because it's really you're investing to build this production, which is a temporary business because it only has a lifespan of so long.
Yeah, I just need you to share in some of the costs and put your brand on it. Now let's do this shit.
But that also feeds back that loop again, because then merchandise offsets all that, and so merchandising becomes a huge component. Maybe what'll happen. This is what
Yeah, but what I'm saying, I think that's only a problem with the big movies, the theatrical releases, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, their budgets are
there's this, I don't know, we focus so much on those that we forget that there's this whole other part of the film industry that is releasing movies constantly that no one's watching.
Well, I
or
mean,
that people watch and no one talks about.
Exactly. Like they're like, well, I know myself. A lot of the stuff that I've been enjoying primarily through some streaming service. But I do actually scrounge for stuff because I do follow particular actors, directors, things like that. But it is very tough to break in for like totally new, totally independent, film. But I gotta say, whatever's happening in Oakland, and maybe it's just because we're local. I'm a local boy. Oakland seems to be popping, with based on what you said about Bodied, and then we put that on top of what was the last one?
Sorry to bother you.
Sorry to bother you, and then
Like Klansman, the one before that with the two guys from Hamilton.
Yeah. Those were they've just been knocking it out, and it's vibrant. It's popping, and some of those I'm assuming were kind of independent. Obviously, Black Klansman is not.
Well, even the other ones that have been on the streaming services, last Kingdom of Scotland, that was a dope movie.
Yeah, it was. Agreed.
Annihilation, I finally got around to watching that. That's one of the best movies I've fucking seen this year.
Really?
Yeah, I finally watched that fucking 2 weeks ago.
Is that the one with Michael Pena? That one? That's Annihilation, or is Annihilation the one with
No, Annihilation is the one with fucking Natalie Portman.
Oh yeah, that is. I agree with that. That is by far one of the best films I've seen.
Yeah, I put that off for so long. I finally watched it. It blew my mind. I was like, God damn.
Yeah, it's a dope movie. there isn't that was like one book, and I guess there's another two books, I think one or two books after that, but that they talk about even the format of the books is they thought was unfilmable. But when I look at what they did, and I'm like, this is dope. That's probably some of the best genuinely um God, that movie just works on so many levels. Because 1 minute you're like, am I watching sci-fi or am I watching horror? Am I watching romance? Is this action? You're like, what is this movie? But really at the end of it, you're like, you're just mind blown. You're going, God damn.
Yeah. But as far as the big movies, yeah, I think you're right. Toy industry is definitely driving content, and they definitely have some creative control over it too. I think
Well,
that's also why we don't see a lot of rated R movies anymore.
yeah, that's a good point.
So you can't sell,
Yeah, like that's like a
sell
whole
those toys to kids because they can't see it.
that which brings us back to the idea of like Deadpool. This Deadpool experiment, the Once Upon a Deadpool experiment, is sending a lot of interesting signals. One, the idea that you can re-release a film within less than a year of itself, a recut version, and that the necessity or that maybe even the cost, it's not cost prohibitive, but the 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 low cost of recutting a film to a PG-13.
Right.
Because that's kind of what he's playing on, even in the ads. Is that it's an attempt to pander toward Disney and say, hey, look, we can do this. You don't have to change everything. But
Especially with Deadpool. Deadpool, you could straight up dub it and just come up with ridiculous shit.
that's true. I didn't
Break the fourth wall with the dub.
Yeah, he's in a mask. So
Yeah.
it's like, who's gonna know?
Right.
He said this. No, he didn't. He said this.
Yeah, you just have to cut out some of the blood and no more sex scenes.
Yeah. But you could do the sex scenes. Getting rid of the sex scenes is easy. You just do the dropped innuendo line and then the fadeaway cut, right?
Yeah, you just do the PG-13 where they have sex with their clothes on or whatever.
You don't even have to do that. You just go back to the old school. You cut away right as they fall into the bed or whatever it is.
Yeah, and then you fade back in.
Yep. You fade back in afterward.
Yes, sir. But yeah, we'll see. As long as the toy industry keeps putting out their more interesting shit, it's whatever to me.
Well, that's what I'm looking at. Like, I actually think on some level, this is where YouTube could really, really, really change the game because of the fact that anyone can upload anything to it. It is a great opportunity for young filmmakers, particularly as time moves on, because it's going to be the go-to place. Because for all intents and purposes, you have to sell. Like, there's money involved in any streaming service, and of course, going to the theater. YouTube, you could upload your film for free. And sure, you're not getting a lot of money, people watching your movie, but there's nothing saying you can't advertise, A. And
Yeah, you still have all that product placement.
Yep. And you can make a name for yourself, right? Because good is good. If it's good, it's good. People, it'll create its own audience. And what I think is good about that is because it's the lack of oversight creates, great shit. Because it's funny, like everyone talks about the Marvel films dominating the industry and stuff like that. The funny thing to me about it is, to a large degree, some of the storylines that they're taking are all storylines that came out of specifically when Marvel, no one was paying attention to it. It was the freedom of failure that allowed some of those creative ideas to come out, and then now they're accepted as kind of gospel, right? Winter Soldier being a perfect example.
Yeah, that was the one that elevated the whole shit.
Even Daredevil, because Daredevil was not the Daredevil that was based off of Frank Miller's Daredevil, or I mean, initially. This later iteration is almost overtly shot by shot taken from was it the Daredevil Born Again? No, that's not right. I forget what it's called. The miniseries he did. But in any event, I kind of think that that's what's going to happen, is that kind of these older mediums are going to be left open to some extent for interpretation and writing and people doing stuff inside of it. We'll see what.
Well, with Marvel, I could see that.
Well, I'm just saying in general, like for example, the reason we saw Jungle Book and Mowgli, two of them in a row, is because I've been doing research on this, is about what exists, what intellectual property currently exists and is open and free because it's in the public domain. And all of Kipling's material is in the public domain, as is a lot of other material. I think L. Frank Baum's material, which is Visit of Oz.
Good to see another white man's burden movie.
Yeah, good point. But I mean, a lot of that stuff, basically anything pre 1932, 33, I think it is in the public domain. And there's a proviso about if it's remained in active publication throughout. If it has remained in active publication uninterrupted, essentially from whatever 70 years ago into the present, then the copyright is still there, but it can be challenged in court. That's
interesting.
It's one of the other reasons that that's another incentive to make sure that they constantly are making Batman. Right? It elongates their monopoly on the character. Because those characters pretty soon are falling into those categories. Within our lifetime, those characters theoretically should fall into the public domain, or could. They won't, but they could. Yeah. But that's a cheap thing, you make these movies because you don't have to pay anyone. There's no license. You just grab it and make a movie. Ta-da!
Yeah, do it while YouTube's still alive. I don't know what they're fucking going to do in the future.
Well, clearly commercials is what YouTube's going to be all about. But
they've been about that. They've been losing money since the beginning.
Mm-hmm. What I'd like to see, even so, YouTube really doesn't need to make money because they're owned by Google, right? So technically, Google just needs to make money being Google, which it's more than capable of doing.
That is true, which is why the only reason why it's still around.
Yep.
But yeah, I agree. That would be dope. The problem with doing that, though, is that you got to get a lot of people to work for free.
Yeah. Well, another good example is, did you watch Homecoming? Well, I assume you checked out Origins or Homecoming, one of the two.
What are you talking about?
Homecoming is, I believe, an Amazon web series, or it might be a YouTube web series. I don't think it's YouTube. I think it's Amazon. Homecoming stars Julia Roberts in her first syndicated TV show, as she puts it. Even though
Oh, okay. I heard about that one. I didn't watch it.
what's intriguing about that one is it is, from what I've heard, it is the first fictional series, or turned into a live action series. First fictional live action series derived from a podcast. And so the original Homecoming was a podcast that was like a group of actors that we'd probably like, actually. I know one of them is like Oscar Isaac, and I think Olivia Wilde is in it, and a few others in the original podcast. And that was a freebie. Didn't cost nobody nothing, right? But they had a solid set of actors doing this thing, and I guess it picked up a real audience. In the same vein that the way a lot of the documentary stuff on Netflix came out of podcasts, like Making of a Murderer. So that's a new thing as well, where there's these long form kind of fiction stuff that's being drawn from different sources and then made into a new format.
Good shit. I heard that show was pretty good. I need to get on that.
Yeah, I actually want to really find the podcast because it sounded really interesting. And like it was the one, for one, they took it very seriously. It's not that long. I think it's only like 9 episodes, something like that. And it also was it had production values, like sound effects, things like that, like they were doing that old school kind of radio drama.
Yeah. Tight.
Yep. And we are just hitting the 12 o'clock hour, almost on the dot of when we started in terms of hour breakdowns. Shall we wrap up, my friend, or do you have some other topics you want to bring up?
Not really.
That's cool.
Things been pretty boring.
Uh,
Just
I've
been
been,
working on some shit that I don't really want to talk about online.
oh, obviously, that's fair enough. I've been working on I'm in a creative lull at the moment, but the last few weeks I've been extremely creative in terms of coming up with ideas for screenplays and stuff. And they've just been pouring out. So I've been taking notes and writing stuff down.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
For one particular story that I'm working on.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I have a my Zorro one kind of came to its own conclusion. Like I think I know how I want to do it, and has its own kind of storyline that came out of it. And then actually the recent film Life Itself inspired an idea for a story too. I really liked Life Itself, even though people smashed it on that movie horribly.
I haven't seen it.
It's it's on Netflix. It's Olivia Wilde, Oscar Isaac, Banderas, Mandy Patinkin, and it's told in I think 4 or 5 parts, like chapters. So it jumps around in time and characters. But I thought it was really well done, and it was very poignant. Very, very poignant film. I was
Right
feeling.
on.
Yeah.
I haven't heard it. Got better reviews, huh?
Yeah, supposedly they said it was contrived and stuff like that, but I actually it was written and directed by its writer, and then that's the dude that did that does This Is Us, that television series.
I haven't seen that either.
I do recommend that. I didn't want to believe the hype either, and originally I checked in on that show because I saw that it was a period show in the 70s, and I was, as always, looking for fan footage. but I actually watched the whole goddamn thing, and I'm like, God damn, this show's good. Like, it's a good family drama, you know, and yeah, it actually you'll get to see a totally new dimension of the dude from the Predator too. Not Predator 2, but the Predator.
Right on.
Yeah, the brother in that. We get to see him. But all right. On that note, we will say goodbye until next time around.
Yes, sir.